Awesome. Well, we're going to jump right in because this is a full fun night. Everybody, welcome to Newman Night, Zoom edition. Well, I'll start with a prayer and then we'll jump in here. In the Father and Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Come, Holy
Amen.
Spirit. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, the gift of life. We thank you for our vocation to holiness. And Lord, perhaps you're calling us to a vocation on top of that, a vocation of service, of either holy orders or marriage. And so, Lord, help us to hear what it is you wish to say to us tonight. We ask you to bless our time, bless these couples, and we're so grateful for their witness and their willing to share a little bit of their lives with us tonight. And so, Father, deepen our trust in you and your desire to provide all good things for us. As we pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father and Son of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Welcome, everybody, to one of my favorite Newman nights of the year. And we're going to jump right in. So we've got 3 couples that are going to be sharing with us. And so perhaps we could jump right in. If you would just open up briefly. I guess we'll have to be brief with all these things, but that's okay. And, well, actually, just real briefly, like your names, where you're at, and how long you've been married. And then we'll jump into some more questions later. So we'll start with Adrian and Colleen first, please.
Good evening, everybody. We are Colleen and Adrian Garola, and this is our daughter, Kiara. She's 6 months old, and we are in Phoenix, Arizona. We've been married for 3 years in June. I had to think about it, so there we go.
Go Lumberjacks.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Pat and Shannon, please.
Pat and Shannon Coonahan. We're living in Tehachapi, California. We have been married, it'll be 30 years this year. We have 11 kids, 5 of which have gone through NEU or in NEU.
Yep, and actually one of our sons is married to Colleen's cousin. So we're practically family.
Great. Thank you. Walton Shirley, please.
We've been married 50 years. Obviously, we're the old couple of the group here. I don't know, what else do you want to know?
Well, we're in our home. We're in Flagstaff, and we lived in Phoenix, and we met in college when we were 18 years old and got married after we both graduated.
Actually, we got married after I graduated and he had another semester to go. That's when we actually got married. He took a little longer.
Her father had it when I asked him if we could get married, said, "You're going to graduate from college?" And I said, "Yes, I'm going to graduate from college." So.
Okay, so let's get to know our couples here a little bit. So the first question is, if you have a piece of paper handy, and this is a question, we're going to see if the guys get the right answer. But does she prefer chocolate or flowers? You can write it down, and then we're gonna.
Spell
Well,
it. Chocolate.
I guess we could cheat a little bit, you know, but okay, we're gonna go. We'll go Adrian and Colleen. Colleen, what's the truth for you? Flowers? Wait, did you say flowers? And he says chocolate?
Wait, it's flowers.
You like both?
That's true.
She likes them both. Okay, you got some time. Okay, Pat and Shannon, what do you say?
Flowers.
flowers,
Flowers. So clear. Is there a favorite type of flower?
anything that's alive,
Anything that blooms.
anything. I don't care.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Shirley, what is it?
Flowers. He
Walt?
put chocolate. Not a clue. 50 years later.
You've got, you've got time to get to know.
Actually, I knew it was flowers, but it was flowers that I bought and not my secretary.
That's true. He used to send me flowers regularly until I found out it all came from his secretary. He'd say, Mary Kay, send my wife flowers. Well, that was meaningless. They came from her.
Okay, here's well, okay, we're speaking about gifts here. What's the best gift that the other person has ever given you? I guess this isn't so much newlywed. We could pick one person or the other, but we'll say for both.
So do I answer and say,
Actually, how about this? Answer for both. Say, here's the best gift I ever gave them, and here's the best gift they ever gave me.
Yes.
Now, you don't have a lot of time, so I know you might not.
You're right.
What's the best gift you can
We're all watching. Just kidding.
I'm not looking.
We'll go in the middle here. Pat and Shannon. Shannon, what do you say?
I'm going to be totally cheesy, but it's the truth. The best gift he ever gave me was his love. And I feel like the best gift I ever gave him was my love. And of course, from that comes children, and we have a lot of love, a lot of kids. So no change in your answer.
I haven't.
Oh, do we? Our internet went a little slow here, so we're gonna jump over here.
Change the answer.
What'd you say there, Pat?
I said the best gift I ever gave her was garden boxes for her garden, and the best gift she ever gave me was a table saw.
So he could make the garden box.
It's good.
Colleen, Adrian, what do you say?
okay, so this is a hard question, I'm just gonna say, and I feel like no matter what I say, it's not gonna be right, but the best gift that Adrian ever gave me was I set our home after several different things, but he's a good gift giver. So our home. And then I think the best gift that I ever gave him was Kiara. So
Yeah. Best gift I ever gave her, I thought was a Galaxy Watch, smartwatch. And yeah, best gift she ever gave me was Kiara, our daughter.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Shirley, what do you think?
The best gift I ever gave him was a tractor, an old tractor the kids and I gave him. And go ahead.
This Christmas, I got Shirley one of those $20 flip down sunshades. And for when she's driving, she said, that's
The
the
best.
best gift I ever gave.
You know why? Because I'm short and none of them hit me. And so that one I could actually use.
Oh, that's great. That he knows
It was
you.
thoughtful.
Mhm.
When you've been married a long time and when you get older, less is more.
Mm. That's great. Okay, here's the we'll do the last question here. If she calls and says, it could go either way here, but we'll just say it this way. I accidentally locked my keys in my car. What is his response? So if hypothetically, if it wasn't him locking his keys in his car, but you did by accident, what would he say?
If I locked his keys in his car.
If you locked yourself out of your car,
Oh,
we can start with you, Shirley. What would he say?
he would say, how could you be so dumb? But I'll be right down.
Walt, what's the response?
It's pretty much the same thing. This has happened to us, so this is.
It's happened several times. And how can we be so dumb? But we always go and help the other one.
Okay, Pat and Shannon, what do you think?
He's always very gentle with me when I make mistakes. So the first word he would say is okay, followed by a long period of silence. And then, did you call AAA? So that's what he would say because he's said it before.
And I said, call AAA.
Yep, there it is. Colleen, what do you say?
He's gonna say, "Where are you?"
Oh,
Without skipping a beat, he's gonna go, "Where are you?" Just very calmly, because that's how Adrian is.
Adrian, what do you say?
I'll be there.
Yeah,
Aw.
that's true.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys. Why don't we'll continue here with Colin and Adrian. And the first question, and I'm going to throw questions at you guys, and students, you're welcome to submit a question in the chat, and I'll facilitate what happens here. But I guess people were always wondering, how do we know if it's the right one? And so the question is, how did God bring you together? And how did you know they were the one? Was there a quality, something happened? Was there a moment? How did God bring you together? And how did you know they were the one? We'll start with you, Colleen and Adrian.
Okay.
So we were friends for 3 years before I wised up to ask her on a date. And I think I first asked Colleen to coffee as like a friend thing, just to get to know each other more. And we ended up talking for a few hours. So that was really good. But she thought it was more just like a friend thing.
Adrian's a really nice guy. And so I was like, oh, Adrian's a nice guy. He, of course he would buy my coffee because he's just great like that.
Yeah. So that was, that was the big thing. We went up to buy the coffee. My heart's like pounding. I'm like inside all stressed, but I'm like trying to play it cool. I'll buy your coffee.
And he like tells it all like he's like anxious about it. And it came off as like, oh, I'll buy your coffee. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, anyway, yeah. So
a couple months later, fast forward.
Yeah, it didn't really pan out to start like a serious relationship after that. We just kind of stayed friends. I think we were both kind of working on things.
But didn't want to do long distance.
Yeah, things like that. But yeah, after a few months, we got more. I got more consolation to ask Colleen on a official like dinner date, and that went really well. I think like overarching, it was more like consolation and prayer, and things like our relationship blossomed very smoothly. Didn't really feel like we had to force anything. And just the way we communicate went really well. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know what you have to say.
Yeah, I think, I think when I think about like Adrian and I's like relationship and our timeline, I mean, we were friends, like he said, for 3 years. We were at the Newman Center. And yeah, I think when I think about like our whole timeline, I think for me, like if I could pick a moment where like that was like small at the time, but is like blossomed to like bigger things, was my 21st birthday. Everybody was, buying drinks and whatever. And Adrian announces to the group, hey, here's a rum and Coke. And he leans in and he says, it's just a Coke. Nobody has to know. And I think that was number one, much needed. Two, showed his heart and his like desire for my good. And like that little moment of buying me a Coke is just like who he is. And it's been consistent ever since. I think when I like think of Adrian, like the word that I think of is steady. I'll be there. Like that's him. And I think like as like our relationship progressed, I think Adrian's right. That it was very smooth. And like even though like there was like hard times along the way, like we were long distance for quite a while, and some other things, you know, it's like in prayer, like the peace was still like in our relationship. The peace wasn't like when I was like looking at in prayer, like with God, like, okay, like, you know, I'm sure that you've probably heard Father Matt say, follow the peace. And I think that's kind of the peace was always with Adrian. And it still is to this day. And like that service of like buying me a Coke then, now it's, you know, getting up in the middle of the night to go and calm our daughter. So, yeah.
Thank you guys. That's beautiful. Let's jump to Walt and Shirley. How did God bring you?
It's nothing that beautiful. Oh my gosh, I feel like I want to marry Adrian. We just evolved. We started dating our freshman year in college. We dated all through college, and we had a great time. It was just sort of evolved, don't you think?
Yeah.
But it was a different time then too. You know, everybody kind of met their spouse in college and got married afterwards. So we just had fun for 4 years. So we're just going to continue it.
Was there any particular
We're still
quality
having
about
fun.
him? Was there anything?
We have fun.
Yeah.
We still have fun.
Mhm.
Well, we had it was from times 4, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 couples. We're all together. And my college roommate married his wife, who was a close friend in college, and they're still married. And I think it was the group we hung with. Shirley and I were there, and
They're all still married.
they're
Yeah.
all still married. There was 4 couples.
And we're still friends. So.
You know, they all come to your kids' weddings. They talk on the phone. Shirley and the other 3 women go on trips together and do things once a year. So we just got to know each other really well.
And I have to say, Walt wasn't Catholic then, so it wasn't like it was a religious thing particularly, but he did go with me to the Newman Center, and that was important to me. And I went to Mass Sunday night, and of course he had nothing better to do on Sunday night because he rarely studied. So he would go with me to the Newman Center, which was important. And here he is, 40 years later, he became a Catholic.
That's great. Thank you, guys. Pat and Shannon, please.
How much time do you have? This isn't your usual story. I'll let you start.
All right, so how did God bring us together? So the short of it is I work with Shannon's stepdad, and occasionally I would go to their house for dinner, and I'd see pictures of Shannon on the wall and say, well, she's a beautiful young lady and I'd like to meet her. And short of it is eventually her parents invited me to go skiing with them. And since I lived down in LA and Shannon lived in LA, they asked me to pick her up and drive her up to Tahoe. So not only did I get to meet her, but we were stuck in a car together for 8 hours. On the way up, we talked about everything from God, country, food, and then we skied together all weekend, and then we drove all the way back and kept talking. So there was a peace between us, and there was really no conflict. We weren't really putting on any kind of mask or faking who we were with each other. It was really down to earth, and I enjoyed our time together. And a couple of days later, we were talking, and Shannon, well, okay, maybe it was like a month later, Shannon was saying she didn't have any insurance for her car. I said, well, I'll call my insurance company and we'll see if I can get you a policy. And my insurance company said, well, she'd have to be your spouse. So I called her up at work and I said, well, the only way I can get you insurance is if you're my spouse. And she's like, okay. So, so that
But
was
that
kind
was a
of
proposal.
that was kind of like a proposal in a way, and she said yes. And so, being young and dumb and not very well versed in my
Wait a
no, I
second.
didn't mean that in the wrong way. Young and dumb in my faith, I should say. I went to the priest in Seal Beach where I'd been going to mass. I said, "Can you marry me?" And I said, "Well, my fiance." And he goes, "Well, how long have you been together?" I was like, "Oh, like 2 months." And he's like, "And how old is she?" And I was like, "Well, she's 20 and I'm 29. He's like, "No way." So that didn't stop us. So we eloped and went up to Tahoe and got married up in Lake Tahoe. So we started our life together in a civil marriage. Then a year later, she came into the church, and it's been a spiritual journey ever since.
So he's leaving out kind of a major part, and I was surprised he didn't mention it. I was not raised with any religion, any faith, and I fell into the New Age movement, and I became a witch. I had gone through 4 initiations, and I was working on my last one when he came into my life. It was a very volatile time spiritually. And after the ski trip, he was in every single one of my dreams. Now, as a witch, dreams are very meaningful, and the fact that he was in every single one of them was like, whoa. But he wasn't like a participant in my dreams. He was a watcher. So he was like standing there watching my dreams unfold. And it kind of creeped me out. So I sought advice from my Druid priest, and he ran the chart on our stars, and he said, you know, this man, he's going to be the death of you. He's going to destroy you. And, you know, I put that in the back of my mind, and I thought, how could he do that? This man is so gentle, so caring, so thoughtful, so loving. Even though he wasn't super spiritual, he went to mass. I don't think he received communion. You might have.
Oh yeah, I did.
You know, so he didn't know like enough to be a faithful Catholic, but he knew he had to go to church. But to me, that was still, you know, that was a lot more faith than I had ever been exposed to. And I was seriously doubting, how could this man destroy me? So whirlwind of events happened, and from the January ski trip to the eloping in May, afterwards I became pregnant. We miscarried, and then when did I get? Easter of the next year, I was brought into the church. And it was at my baptism that I realized when we're baptized, the old us dies. And so it was because of him that I was dead to my old life and brought to new life. And that was so profound. And all these little things that God showed us along the way, his name being Patrick, my name being Shannon. If anybody knows anything about the story of St. Patrick, they would say, oh, no, that's kind of creepy that he, being Catholic, came to me, Shannon, Ireland, and converted me to from paganism to Catholicism. His confirmation name is Francis, and my confirmation name is Claire. And it was just all these things that was just continual proof from God. You two were made for each other. I set you apart from everyone else from the beginning of time, that you were meant to come together, even though there's almost 10 years between you. and that from you would be a lot of children. And I've never doubted that he was ever the one. So God is good.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
there's Donna Steichen is a Catholic author, and she wrote a book called Chosen. And it's about, I think, 33 converts to the Catholic faith. And our story is in there if anybody wants a little bit more detail.
That's cool. That's
A little plug there. You can
Thank
get it
you.
on Amazon.
Thank you for, I appreciate you just being real and honest with us. The next question is, it's kind of another honest vulnerability question, is what's been one of the most difficult parts of marriage and how did you get through it? And so maybe we'll jump to Walt and Shirley, and I think I hit mute on you, so if you want to unmute it.
I don't know. There's been a lot of difficult parts. It's marriage isn't easy over 50 years. There's some really hard times, but I think we do have shared basic values with the children and a commitment. So I think that's what got us through. What do you think?
Well, first of all, the church. Whether I was Catholic or not when we got married, I was a Protestant. But my father was very straightforward in saying that, if you get married, it's marriage for life. And I think one of the beauties of the Catholic faith is that that's the way the church has it. And you're always going to have difficulties in a marriage, no matter how wonderful the times are. There's always a time when you're pulled apart or there's problems, financial problems, all kinds of things. But you know that you're bound together. And because of that, you work through things. So.
Okay, thank you. Adrian and Colleen, what do you think?
I would probably say getting the most difficult thing, getting used to communication styles and like love languages. Because like I'm more like physical touch. Colleen's more quality time and gift giving. So just like learning how to adapt and try to like fill the other's cup.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not a huge talker. Colleen,
I can talk.
That's what she does for a living. So yeah, like at the end of a day of work, like I'm talking to people all day, and I need to be more present. Like talk more, strengthen our relationship, and like I need to be more aware of that because I tend to be quieter at the end of the day, versus Colleen.
I could talk for 5 more hours nonstop. So.
Yeah.
But I think it was also like I needed to recognize too that like he was in a room talking to people all day, and like that's a big deal, for him. That's a lot wearing on him in his life. And I think like, communication styles, like our first year was a lot of working through communication, living together. Suddenly like you set something on the counter and it gets moved by someone else, or you come back and everything's a mess and you're like, what the heck? I think it's just been adapting through it. But I think, it's true. Like, that like you're not stuck. I don't like to use that word, but you're bound together. And I think like there's like, when I look back at like what got us through, I think it was like saying, okay, like, God, you brought us together. Like, so help get us through this. And I think there's like true grace in the sacrament of that. And I'm grateful for that grace in order to get through it. Because yeah, I mean, there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be arguments. And so yeah, that's it. Yeah. Anything else? Okay.
If I can ask a follow-up question,
Yeah.
When there are those disagreements and arguments, if you will, or whatever, what works for you guys? What have you learned at this point that helps you to address that?
I find that we get through fights faster if I tend to be a very sarcastic person. When I'm not sarcastic, things go a little smoother, at least on my end. But also like tangibly, like holding hands makes things go faster. It's really hard to be mad at somebody when you're holding their hand. I mean, you can like really like grip it hard, but like it's not going to do anything, you know? That's on my mind.
I think what helps is just like, like remembering a different communication style. So yeah, quality time, like a part of that is like you're feeling heard. So like me trying to remember, like as she is speaking with me, what makes help her feel heard is if I repeat that, and then I go forward with what I'm thinking versus me just going straight to what I was thinking, because that makes her feel like that's not heard, and that usually escalates things. So yeah, just that kind of helps, and then praying for patience. So
a lot of Hail Marys.
Yeah.
Great, thank you guys. Pat and Shannon, maybe if you want to share what one or more difficulties and how did God get you through it?
I would say that it's always an ongoing difficulty or trial, I guess you could say, is understanding what your spouse is saying to you, giving her the time to let what her words are saying permeate your brain and understand what she's saying, because so many times I can say something to her or she can say something to me and it's misunderstood, whether it's she's trying to joke with me and I don't get it, or I'm trying to joke with her and she doesn't get it. And you just have to work it through. I think one of the other ongoing things in our relationship is the nature of my work is I can't tell her what I do. So I come home from work and everybody asks, how was your day? I said, oh, it's fine. I had some problems. That's basically all I can say. Sometimes I have to leave for a day or two or three. I can't tell them where I go. So in the back of her mind, lots of times she's thinking, he's having an affair. And I'm trying to tell her, I'm not having an affair. This is just what I do. I work for the Department of Defense. And I just can't tell you what I do or where I go. So at the end of the day, it comes down to love and trust.
Yeah.
And there may be hard feelings, or maybe these little mentions in your brain from the devil tempting you to put more into it than it is. But at the end of the day, you just have to trust each other.
Yeah. I would say we don't fight. Maybe we've had one or two fights, and they're not really fights like other people would consider in the whole 30 years that we've been married, because it's almost like a dance when sometimes you let your partner lead and sometimes you lead, but you're always in tune with your partner. And when you do that, you know, it just flows a little better, and we're both kind of peacekeepers. So we don't want a hostile family life. But the communication is difficult sometimes. I think in every marriage, communication is key, and learning how to communicate, because I'm a different temperament than he is. And before I learned about different temperaments, I just assumed that he felt things the way I did, and that he thought the same way and would express himself. And it wasn't that way at all. So I had to learn more about his temperament and how he was seeing things differently than I was. And once you realize that, you know, not everybody's the same, you can kind of give them a little slack for not knowing that you're being sarcastic, you know, or joking, and they take it seriously. It's like, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't serious. And being able to be open and say, I'm sorry, I think is very important. I mistook what you said, or I didn't mean how you took it. But even, I guess, trust goes right in there with communication, because it's hard having your husband go Friday night, Saturday night, or 3 days gone. He can't call you and he can't tell you where he is. And there was one time one of our sons got in an accident and I couldn't get a hold of him. And I felt like the whole world was falling apart. I thought somebody could die and he wouldn't even know until he came home. And it's at times like that when you have to realize, even though it doesn't make sense, we have to trust. We have to trust each other, and we have to trust in God. And when we start doubting that trust, then the communication kind of slips, and then the relation kind of slips, and then all kinds of messes can happen. So we try and keep on the level with each other as much as we can. When I'm hormonal or in a bad mood, I make sure I let him know, honey, it's not you, it's me, it's me. And then he knows he's not in the doghouse, that I'm just being me. So.
Thank you. How do you, if anybody wants to raise their hand and I can share, you can share on this. Question is, how do you know when in a dating relationship, when it's time to walk away or keep staying and fighting? When is trust gone, or how do we, maybe we had to walk away from some other relationships along the way. And any one of you three want to take a stab at that? Go ahead.
I'll take a little stab. One of my kids came home with a cute little story about a cockroach. And the cockroach was the most beautiful cockroach in the whole gutter. And it was time for her to start courting to find a husband. And her grandma, the old cockroach, came up and she said, we'll call her Bella. She said, Bella, there are going to be many suitors that come along, and they're all going to be fancy, and they're going to try and impress you and sweep you off your feet with gifts and nice words. But I want you to promise me that you will do one thing to every single one of them. I want you to spill coffee on their shoe. And Bella thought that that was very strange, but she promised her grandmother, I promise, Granny, I will do that. So the first suitor comes along, and he's a very fine man with a very rich jacket, and he's got lots of gifts to give to Bella. And they have a wonderful lunch and a wonderful conversation. And at the end of it, she spills coffee on his shoe. And all of a sudden, his whole demeanor changes and he starts yelling at her. And she knew, aha, this is not the one for me. Even though he was fancy and had gifts and wonderful words to give her, when something happened that didn't go his way, he exploded in anger. And so the process continues. It's a really cute story. Several different times with several different suitors for several different reasons, and all of them respond in a way that Bella definitely would not want that aspect in a husband. And finally, this poor cockroach comes up and he presents himself to her and says, I don't have much to give, but everything I have, I will give to you, but most importantly, my love. So they have a very humble meal and they laugh. And at the end of it, she feels so sure that he's the one, but she has to do the test. So she grabs her coffee, and right before she pours it on his shoe, he pours coffee on her shoe. And they both laughed. And he said, my grandmother told me, if I was ever to find a wife, I should pour coffee on her shoe, because then I would know the true nature of her character. And of course, they got married and lived happily ever after and had millions and millions of cockroach babies. But there's so much wonderful truth in that, is that a suitor can present themselves to you in a matter of days. For us, it was months, years. I mean, it doesn't matter the time. You only know the character of your suitor by when something doesn't go their way. How do they hold their anger? That's a very important thing. And when we were on our ski trip, that very first time, he had bought a pair of very expensive sunglasses. And he was so nervous about trying to get everything packed up and make sure that I was safely in the car and everything, that he forgot that he had left the sunglasses on top of the car. And I knew those sunglasses were up there, but I wanted to see how he would respond. And he didn't make a big deal out of it, and he wasn't angry. So I knew he wasn't focused on material goods, money and all of that. I knew that I would be more important than that. And he didn't explode and cuss and all of that. So I knew he could control his anger and his disappointment. So in a way, that was my pouring coffee on his shoe. You didn't even know that, did you? But that would be my advice.
Thank you for that. Adrian and Colleen, question is, how do you make distance work?
Very carefully, with a lot of patience. For us, I think, sorry, this is like bothering me.
Distance.
Okay. I think for us it was, so how long were we?
Too long.
I think 2 years, until we were back in the same state, only an hour away. For us, it was a lot of calls, a lot of texts, a lot of trust. And I think, we're actually those people that wrote each other physical letters. I had like read somewhere that was like good for people for physical touch because it was physical. And for me, it meant a lot to me in my love language because it was like an act of service, and so I was like, oh, I'm writing. And I knew Adrian painstakingly took the time to write me a letter. When I think about like other things, like, I don't know, I don't know, you jump in. I need to think more.
Yeah, so I mean, the hardest thing with distance is like you're pretty much living separate lives.
Yeah.
So one thing that we did that really helped was like picking a book that we would each read, and then that we'd have more to talk about during like a FaceTime or on the phone, or like watching a show at the same time. And then, yeah, just being more intentional. So yeah, the writing letters to each other would really helped. And I tried to make it like more special. So like I got like a wax press, and I would wax seal the letters.
Like an old time wax press. It was awesome. I love you. It was cool.
Yeah, there's something to just be more intentional, because I mean I can't be there on weekends. We can't have like a dinner date or something. So yeah, I think those were the biggest things.
And I think too, like knowing when we would see the other next.
Yeah.
So like there was one time that we didn't see each other for 3 months, and I think that was the longest that we ever went without seeing each other.
Yeah.
And we had to be like, okay, and that was hard. And sorry if you can hear our daughter, she's trying to be put down for bedtime. She's not about it right now. But like to know like, okay, I'm going to see you in a month, or I'm going to see you in 6 weeks, or I'm going to see you in 2 months. Helped a lot. I mean, we even had to do a couple months of long distance in our marriage too, when he moved down ahead of me. I got a job, but I didn't start until June. And then he got a job like a day later, and they're like, yeah, you need to be here in 2 weeks. So it's just all about like, yeah, being intentional, because you don't have that shared life. Adrian said it really well, that you just live separate lives. So it's taking the time to say, this is what, like, we're going to see each other. And like, you have technology now. That's the cool part. Like, we could be here with you.
Great. Thank you. The next question is, especially where you haven't shared the faith, like the question is, how important is the faith in the relationship? But if we're marrying somebody who's not the same faith as us, how do you know that that's going to work, and how do you treat each other as opposed to pressuring somebody? Because maybe some students are dating people who are not Catholic, you know, and how do we navigate that? Or how do we know if this is going to work, or this is one of those that's not going to work? Maybe we could start with Walt and Shirley.
Well, they have to be willing to go to church with you. They can, to me, it was okay if he could believe what he wanted, but he knew I was Catholic and I was going to remain Catholic, and it was important to me. So, you know, he could come along for the ride, but that was the way I was going to be. And he had actually, we got married by 3 people at the same time. He had a Methodist minister that was close to his family. We had a Catholic priest marry us. And then he had a master's exam, so someone had to sub for him. And then he came in the end, and he said, anyone married by 3 people should stay married. And he was right, because we have. But his minister said, it doesn't matter what door you go in, but make sure you go in to a door on Sunday morning. And I thought that was really sweet, and it really helped. Because he did always go with me. So eventually, you know, you wear them down and they become Catholic. And I didn't push it. He tried to do it one other time. And, you know, they'd always have the greatest people doing these things. And it was the lady at the church she sounded just like the lady on Saturday Night Live who used to go, isn't that special? And he talked to her and he said, I'm not going. So then he found the casa and he went to the casa.
Any comments, Walt?
Well, you know, it's what's really unusual is having grown up in the East in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Where I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, there was a fairly high prejudice against Catholics. And so when I told my parents that I was going to marry Shirley, you know, my mother would never speak about it, but she would always tell my dad, you've got to talk to him about this. And I looked at my dad and I said, you got to be kidding me, Dad. This is a woman I love. And they never said a word about it again. And I always chuckled that when my father passed away, my mother married a Catholic. So things don't last long. But I realized how important faith was and religion was. But Shirley helped me get involved in the church. But, you know, I think your faith is very important. So.
Thank you. Pat and Shannon, what do you say?
I would say that Shannon and I were the farthest apart of any people could be.
On the spectrum, Catholic.
I was young and
pagan.
the only thing I knew about being Catholic was going to church on Sunday or Saturday night. And Shannon was a witch, but truly believed that our Lord and Our Lady used us where we were and guided us on our whole journey and still guide us today. Because prior to meeting Shannon, my mom and dad never talked about religion at home, but that Christmas before this ski trip, I got a statue of Our Lady, I got a rosary, and I got a Bible. We never prayed the rosary at home. I didn't even know what it was. And so a month later, I'm trying to find out what these things are for. And it helped that I had rented my house out when I moved down to LA from Tehachapi to a Calvary Chapel guy. And he kept bantering me about my faith and what I believed, and I couldn't give him any answers. So I'm starting to learn about my faith on my own. And as Shannon and I came together, when she would go off to her coven meetings, I picked out this little booklet on the rosary, and I would sit on the back porch and I would start praying the rosary for her and lighting a candle for her, not knowing the power of the rosary. So she's off doing her witch thing, and I'm at home learning how to pray this rosary for her. And so the Lord brought us together. And when we were married, and I was talking to her about Catholicism, she's like, well, I could probably mix my coven practices with Catholicism and come up with my own religion. And I was like, I don't know about that. And it was about that time that a friend of mine at work passed me a book, Message of Medjugorje, and we read that book out loud to each other. And it was like Our Lady just grabbed us by the hand and brought us along gently. And she started shedding all her coven practices. She had an altar in our bedroom with all her spell cantations. I put that statue of Our Lady I got for Christmas right in the middle of her altar, and slowly all of the witchy things start disappearing and more holy things start showing up on this little altar. So, and even to this day, I mean, our faith is what holds us together, because
Yes.
we've had so many experiences with
The devil.
the that the faith in Our Lady and our Lord, the sacraments, is the glue that holds this family together.
Yeah, without our shared faith, we wouldn't exist, because it's our life, it's our breath, it's our love.
Yeah, we too were married 4 times. So we eloped. And unfortunately, like I said, being young and dumb, I allowed myself to be handfasted to Shannon in her coven. So
Which is a
basically,
pagan marriage.
pagan marriage. And then we got our marriage blessed. And then the following summer, we had a big church wedding because my mom was livid that I got married without her. So,
Oops.
so we've been married 4 times.
Yeah. And the priest who married us the last time said the same thing. Anybody who's been married this many times to each other, they're going to stay together. So
Great, thank you. Colleen and Adrian, how important is your faith, the faith in your relationship?
Yeah, it's pretty much the foundation.
mhm.
Yeah, I don't know how we would do it if we didn't have Christ in the middle. Just like everything that we do, like, you know, practicalities of like NFP, if she wasn't on board with that, if I wasn't on board, like, I don't know how we would make that work. And just like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. In terms of like prayer, just knowing that like Colleen is not my ultimate happiness. It's ultimately God. And my job, my sole purpose is to get her and any kids to heaven. So yeah, reaching for Christ and then lifting up Colleen to Christ. If I was just fixated on her and like our love, I mean, I don't think that would last.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's, you know, because like, as much as I love Adrian and as great as he is, like, he's not perfect, but also neither am I. Like, I'm really not. And I think that I think it gives greater purpose. You know, when we talk about like all of the other things, you know, yeah, like going through the distance or like having kids or, you know, because being up at 1 a.m. is not fun at home with a crying kid. It's just not. But like, it's just, you find purpose in faith, right? And I think sorry, I hear my daughter and it's like, it's distracting me. But I think it's just, there's just like great, oh, well, let me just brief thing. Sorry, Father. So like, I think I look at it as, you know, like we've been to friends' weddings, you know, who, you know, maybe they're just Christian or they don't have a faith, and you go to their weddings and it feels empty. And like Adrian and I have both noticed it. It's like, there's just kind of something lacking, you know? I think Adrian said it well. It's like, it's just fixated on like their love. not on like the greater purpose of like why we're here. And I think, yeah, I don't know. You already said it well, and now I'm just going down the same tangent, but like that, yeah, there's just great purpose in like, in how like God laid out marriage and laid out our life in order to like, help get each other to heaven. And so I think it just goes back to kind of what I was talking about just like the grace of the sacrament. And I think I'm just going to stop talking.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'll ask you, we're going to do 2 quick questions to wrap up. And I'll tell you what the 2 questions are right now. The first is, what's the best part of marriage? What's been, it hasn't been the best, but what's one of the biggest blessings of marriage? And then if you had to give some short, brief advice to college students who think they might be called to marriage one day, what's advice for them kind of today and going forward that would be helpful? We'll start with you, Adrian and Colleen. We're still with you, so why don't we, if you have, what's one of the best parts of marriage, and what advice do you have for college students?
Hanging out with my best friend every single day. Adrian is my best friend. And I think like we're friends first, and that is just a gift. Like to share, like we were laughing at that, like if you've seen the lawyer video with the cat on Zoom, cracks us up. We were, but it's just, it's sharing that, it's life. And that's a gift, and it's the best gift. To get to wake up every day and do life with Adrian, best gift of my whole life. If I could impart some wisdom, just be patient. Like I look back on just life and like trying to like rush things, and like God, like who is outside of space and time, it seems like maybe he's taking forever. And when I look back, like he wasn't taking forever. He hit it right on the mark when I was supposed to go on that coffee date with Adrian, and he was supposed to buy me a Coke a couple months later. And, 6 years after that, we're supposed to be sitting here talking to you guys. So just be patient and like, don't rush it. It'll come in its time, and it's going to blow you away, because God is that good.
Yeah.
And I'm hormonal, so I might start crying, so it's fine.
Yeah, I would say probably the best thing is just like a physical sign or a light of God's love on this earth, because I can be totally myself with Colleen, and I would say that's probably the best thing. And heaven's gonna be great because that's just a foreshadowing. And I guess just advice. Probably like as you're single, I mean, you have a whole bunch of time.
You have so much time. You don't even know.
Just like, just work on yourself, work on prayer, make that a habit, because habits stay. So if you're praying a lot when you're single every day, then that's gonna spill over. And if you're not single, if you're dating someone, just continue to discern. And like if you're fighting a lot, or like you're getting hunches, like maybe it's not working out, maybe take that to God a little bit, just because I mean, it only gets harder when you get married because you're spending so much time together. If you're already fighting a lot when you're just hanging out some evenings and weekends, that's not a good precursor. I'm sorry. So yeah.
Thank you. That's great. We're going to jump to Walt and Shirley. What's one of the best parts of marriage, and what advice do you have for college students?
You always let me go first. One of the best parts is, like Colleen said, just spending time together and laughing together every day. You have to have fun every day. And it's someone who shares your sense of humor and can find funny things. We enjoyed the cat video too. And one of the best parts is family. Your children, your family, later on your grandkids. it's your greatest blessing, but it's also sometimes your greatest worry. And, you know, sometimes it will make you crazy but it's also your greatest love. So
I think being married as long as Shirley and I have, probably the most important thing is, you know, there's somebody there who's always yours, who's always there when you need her. You know, it's very comforting. I mean, to have somebody who's always there, that will understand you. Shirley knows me better than I know myself. You know, it's taken me a while to realize that how important that she is to me. I learn something new about her every day. And I think that's important to a relationship. I have a good friend who's been married 10 years longer than we have. And he told me the most important thing about a good marriage is that a husband needs to make his wife laugh once every day. And, you know, I think there's tremendous power in humor. There's tremendous power in that. And also sharing faith. You know, we're part of a prayer group every night. And I think that saying a prayer together with other couples, it's interesting. It just brought us, I think, even closer together. So
it's nice to check in with other people in group prayer every night, because it's other people. It's only 20 minutes or so, and it's like checking on your day with other people that share your faith. It's nice. We do the liturgy, the hours at night.
That's great. Thank you very much. How about Pat and Shannon, please?
Most wonderful thing about being married is that you can share yourself without fear, without shame, without judgment. And you promise to receive the other person the same way. We realized as our children were growing that they needed to start praying for their future spouse. And my husband created a prayer that we say every night. Marry my mother, pick me a spouse, be it your son or someone else. And it's a gentle reminder that we're all called to a vocation of some kind. And God is preparing that other person. They may not be Catholic, they might not be a witch, but the heart of another person is being prepared just as your heart is, either for holy orders, in which case your spouse is God himself or the church, and that's completely sublime, or for a person who you can live in peace and joy and love for the rest of your life with. And it's been a really good 30 years. I'm really looking forward to the next 100.
For me, I think last few years, the biggest blessing is that once our youngest child was out of diapers, Shannon started getting up with me, and she would start making my lunch. So I leave for work at 4:30 in the morning. So it's a sacrifice for her to get up and make that commitment every day to make my lunch and see me off. And so in my morning routine, I go around, I bless all the kids are left at home with holy water. And I go in and kneel at the side of the bed, and we pray the Angelus before I leave. And then when I come home, it's like we had this mutual understanding, whether I had a stressful day or she had a stressful day at home, but the brightest part of my day is coming home and just seeing her face. And once I'm at home, I don't ever want to leave. I don't have any desire to have me time, or once I get home, I need to go out and be with other men or go do my own thing alone. I just want to be with her. So just
Yeah,
being together.
having children put a lot of stress on the together time, which could have been maybe some difficult, I mean, we didn't really have difficult times, but when I was constantly pregnant, nursing, ill, I couldn't get up and see him off. I didn't have the strength to make his lunch. And a lot of times he had to fend for himself, and he never complained. He was always so gentle about it and always helping out when he came home. If I was on the couch because I was sick as a dog, he would come home and make dinner and clean up and put the kids to bed, and totally took care of everything without a grudge, without belittling me, always wanting to do what was best. And so when we stopped having children, I wanted to return that, because I had always wanted to do that for him, and kind of return that gift of love, of self-giving. And I'm able to now, and I'm glad. But praying and finding your peace in each other is really important. And if you can't find your peace in the person that you're with for the rest of your life, then there's something wrong. So
That's great. Well, thank you very much. What a gift it is to be here with you guys. Thank you for making time. And I could sit here all night, listen to you guys tell stories and share things that are just so beautiful and honest and real. And so let's, as you said very beautifully, let's turn to God and ask for his just blessing and guidance here. In the name of the Father and the Son of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Heavenly Father, you who know all things and hold all things in your power, Lord, you already know what's to come for us, and you're already preparing us that everything in our lives today, from our relationships, from our responsibilities, our difficulties, the blessings, Lord, somehow you're preparing a space for our vocation, which first and foremost is you, Lord. That you desire to fulfill our deepest desires and our happiness. And you wish to move us in accord with your will, which might be with you as a priest or religious or married. And so, Lord, we place our future in your hands. We choose to let go of having to control it, of having to know it. Lord, deepen our trust that you desire our happiness even more than we do. Give us a freedom to be where we are and to follow where you lead. And Father, I ask your blessing upon each couple, upon each student, person here tonight, these who are your sons and daughters, in whom you are well pleased. I ask you to bless them wherever they are at this night. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And Mother Mary,
Amen.
we ask for your intercession, you who hold our vocation close and guide us as we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.